There are secrets not hidden in ancient books. Not locked away in dungeons, nor banned by any authority. They lie where no one thinks to look. A river. Euphrates, a name that echoes the very dawn of human civilization. It once sustained Babylon. It nourished Assyria. It carried whispers of the oldest prophecies in the dry, wind-blown nights of the Middle East. But today, it is dying. Satellite imagery reveals a disturbing truth. The sacred waters are vanishing. The riverbed cracks open like a seal, one that was never meant to be broken. And then, a chilling line from the book of Revelation resurfaces. Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. Not beneath the sea. Not in the heavens above. But beneath the parched mud and fractured stones of a dying river. For beings, shackled since the beginning of time. Who are they? Why were they imprisoned here? And more importantly, why does prophecy warn that they will be unbound, at an appointed hour? Not every church dares to mention this story. Not every scholar is willing to touch its details. And not every believer is ready to face what draws near. In this video, we won't merely trace the outlines of an ancient prophecy. We will descend into the depths of suppressed history. Uncover a rebellion that once shook the foundations of heaven itself. And decode the true meaning of names erased from official memory. Because perhaps, what is rising is not beneath the river, but within what humanity has forgotten. Be cautious. What you're about to hear is not a tale. It is a warning. And an invitation. Are you ready to enter the silence beneath the Euphrates? Part 1, The Secret Map, the location of the 4 angels. In the apocalyptic texts of Christianity, there are few short passages that provoke as much fear and curiosity as this one. Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. No further description. No coordinates, no names, no additional details except for one fact. 4 angels, bound, beneath a river that truly exists. The Euphrates River is not a myth. It still flows, though it is drying up day by day. From the mountains of Turkey, its waters pass through Syria and end in Iraq, where it joins the Tigris and empties into the Persian Gulf. And it is precisely in this land, the cradle of the Sumerian, Babylonian, and Assyrian civilizations, that, thousands of years ago, mysterious things were carved into stone and earth. Archaeologists once called this region the Fertile Crescent. But in myth and scripture, it has another name. The Cursed Land. Why? According to ancient texts, the Euphrates was not only a source of life, it was the border between light and darkness, between divine order and ancient chaos. And somewhere beneath the silt, the black mud, and millennia of sediment, lies the place where 4 entities once called angels were sealed. No one knows the exact coordinates. But medieval scholars once debated that if there were a spiritual fault line connecting heaven, earth, and the underworld, it would be near the confluence of the Euphrates and the Khabur rivers, once the heart of the Assyrian Empire. Today, that area lies between modern-day war zones like Deir-ez-Zor, Syria, and Al-Qaim, Iraq. We are not only witnessing the drying of the waters, but continuous chaos, violence, bloodshed. And strangely, isn't it? The very place where the prophecy of the 4 angels' release is recorded, is also where the most intense modern conflicts are happening. Some researchers suggest the Revelation passage is symbolic, that Euphrates is simply a metaphor for a spiritual boundary. But let's set that idea aside for a moment. Imagine, what if every word was true? Could there be an ancient geological gate beneath the riverbed? Was Euphrates once a site of mystical rituals, sealed with methods long forgotten by humankind? In fact, some ancient Akkadian maps depicted the river as a serpent winding around forbidden towers, called ziggurats, sacred structures of the guardian gods. And in certain original Sumerian texts, there is mention of 4 entities chained beneath the earth awaiting the day of blood, a concept nearly identical to Revelation 9 verse 14. In recent years, as Euphrates reaches unprecedented low levels, strange discoveries have emerged. Stone chambers with unidentified symbols. Limestone structures that do not appear on any known archaeological maps. And strange sounds recorded by U.S. soldiers during operations in Iraq in 2003, near the Euphrates region. No official confirmation has been made. But leaked documents on military forums have led many to question. Are the excavations in the riverbed revealing the remains of a prison not meant for mankind? If you believe it's all allegory, that's not wrong. But if you believe that every ancient myth is built on a fragment of truth, then Euphrates is exactly where we should start digging. Because once the final layer of earth is turned over, what's being uncovered may not only be the remains of sacred beings, but the truth about how mankind once lived with, or defied, its gods. Part 2, Who are the fallen angels? 4 angels. No names. No forms. Only mentioned as entities bound beneath the Euphrates River. But in the shadows of ancient texts, forgotten letters, and inscriptions excluded from the official Bible, names begin to take shape. Lucifer, the bearer of light, and pride. In every legend, the name Lucifer always leads the list of fallen angels. Not because he was the most wicked, but because he was the first to fall. In Latin, Lucifer means light bringer. He is described as the most beautiful, the most intelligent angel, closer to God than any other. But because of that perfection, he could not accept not being number one. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will ascend into heaven. Book of Isaiah. Lucifer did not merely betray, he rebelled. And in that rebellion, 1/3 of the angels followed him. They did not vanish. They did not die. They were cast out of heaven, carrying with them a distorted light, and a command, to live among humanity as darkness. But interestingly, Lucifer is not one of the 4 angels bound beneath the Euphrates. Why? Some theories suggest Lucifer was never sealed, because he is still active. Not in demonic form, but through influence, in ambition, technology, power, and division. Samayaza, the leader of the Watchers. His name means, the one who sees God. According to the Book of Enoch, a non-canonical text widely referenced by ancient Jewish scholars, Samayaza was the leader of the Watchers. They were angels sent by God to oversee early mankind. But then they betrayed. Not out of hatred. Not out of a thirst for power. But because of desire. Samayaza and the other Watchers fell in love with human women. They could not resist the beauty of humans, fragile beings who possessed emotions and freedom that angels did not. Let us choose wives from among the daughters of men, and bear children with them. Book of Enoch. From this union, hybrid children, Nephilim, were born. They were giants, powerful, but cruel and bloodthirsty. They destroyed the balance of the world. And for this sin, Samayaza was bound in a dark abyss, awaiting judgment day. Some scholars believe that abyss is the Euphrates River itself. Azazel, the one who taught humans to forge weapons. Unlike Samayaza, who sinned out of emotion, Azazel is the embodiment of corrupted knowledge. Azazel did not teach love, nor did he preach faith. He taught men how to forge swords and spears, and women how to beautify themselves, how to use appearance as a tool for manipulation. Azazel taught humanity how to make swords, armor, and women the arts of seduction. Book of Enoch. For Azazel, knowledge came without ethics. And when such knowledge is given to those unprepared, the price is the collapse of early civilization. Some say Azazel is the first symbol of uncontrolled science, of humanity trading ethics for power. And he is one of the angels condemned to eternal imprisonment, in the abyss, awaiting judgment. Many theologians believe Azazel is among the 4 angels bound in Euphrates. Beelzebub, known as Lord of the Flies. In the New Testament, when Jesus cast out demons, skeptics accused him. He casts out demons by the power of Beelzebub, the lord of demons. The name Beelzebub is associated with flies, filth, disease, and at times, doubt in faith. But if we look closer, Beelzebub is not just a symbol of impurity. He may also represent misunderstood power. Some Gnostic texts refer to him as a high-ranking angel, one who defied heaven not to rebel, but to liberate humanity from ignorance. Was he truly a demon? Or was he made into one, because he dared to challenge the order? So, who are the 4 angels that were bound? Theological scholars still debate to this day. But there is one compelling theory. They are not 4 separate individuals, but 4 aspects of the fall. Lucifer represents pride. Samayaza represents desire. Azazel represents corrupted knowledge. Beelzebub represents spiritual disease, doubt and instability. If this is true, then they are not merely beings, but states of consciousness that dwell within the human mind. And the Euphrates River, once flowing through great empires, may now be the place imprisoning the very shadow of humanity itself. Part 3, The Mysterious Seal, the Spiritual Chains. Take a moment and think. If the 4 angels, beings who once lived in the light of God, were bound, then who was powerful enough to bind them? And what could hold entities beyond time, without flesh, without weight? The answer does not lie in metal, but in divine will. What is known as the spiritual chain? In many legends, fallen angels were not imprisoned in dungeons made of stone or iron bars. They were bound by decree, by divine command, by laws that could not be broken. According to the Book of Enoch, after the Watchers betrayed their mission, God did not destroy them. He ordered their imprisonment, not by soldiers, but by sacred decree. Archangel Raphael was sent. Bind their hands and feet, cast them into the abyss, and cover them with eternal darkness, until the day of judgment. No one explained exactly what those chains were. But if we study the structure of ancient texts, we find a common pattern. Every seal is accompanied by 3 elements. 1. A sacred curse, spoken by a supreme authority. 2. A sacred location, a place no one is allowed to approach. 3. A warning symbol, often in the form of dryness, violence, or prolonged chaos around the sealed site. The Euphrates River, with its blood-stained history, religious wars, forgotten ruins, and unnatural drought, fulfills all 3 conditions. In ancient Jewish culture, a seal was not meant to punish, but to prevent a distorted energy from spreading into the world. It was like blocking polluted water before it tainted the source. A seal is not an end, but a delay, a temporary act of mercy. This raises the question: why delay? Because these angels still carry a fragment of light. They were not destroyed immediately, because they were not pure darkness. They are proof of a fracture within the divine design itself. And if fractured light were to be fully erased, even heaven would no longer be perfect. If these fallen beings have no physical form, then their chains cannot be material. Modern mystics refer to this as a seal of consciousness. A kind of mental lock, closed by frequency, symbols, or ancient ritual. Some believe that at spiritual hotspots like Euphrates, Baalbek, or the Ural Mountains in Russia, there are ancient sealing stations, places where memories of the fall are kept from flooding into the real world. We may not see these chains, but perhaps we can feel them. Have you ever stood in an ordinary place, yet felt the air so thick and heavy that it was hard to breathe? Have you ever dreamed of a locked door, but didn't know that you were holding the key? That may be the echo of a forgotten seal, no one remembers how to unlock. In Revelation, the moment the 4 angels are unbound is not marked by magic or ritual. Just a single command: release them. No prayer. No holy bell. Just an order, and an impending event. Why? Because such seals were never meant to last forever. They have an expiration. And when that time comes, everything happens as it was written. Perhaps the 4 angels were not imprisoned to be forgiven. but kept, for the right moment, to play their role in the final chapter of humanity's story. In the end, we must ask ourselves, is the real chain in the Euphrates, or in the human mind? The four bound angels may represent four hidden aspects of ourselves. The pride we dare not admit. The desire we hide beneath virtue. The knowledge we fear to misuse. And the doubt that quietly erodes our faith. If the seal is real, then what happens, when we are the ones who unlock it? Part 4, The Euphrates is drying, a warning from the ancients. There are prophecies that echo like whispers in the night, and then fade into nothingness. But there are also prophecies that return to reality. Not in dreams, but in weather reports, satellite surveillance, and the roar of modern conflict. The Euphrates, the oldest river of human civilization, is drying up. And this is no longer a metaphor. NASA satellite images over the past 20 years reveal an alarming truth. The Euphrates water levels are dropping dramatically, to the point that many parts of the riverbed have turned into cracked, dry streaks of sand. The causes? Climate change. Dams from Turkey and Syria. Excessive groundwater extraction. And war, which not only kills people but also kills rivers. But the question is not just why is the river drying? The more terrifying question is, what will be revealed when the last drop of water disappears? In recent years, as the Euphrates has dwindled, a series of strange phenomena have emerged. Ancient stone structures previously unrecorded on archaeological maps. Underground brick chambers exposed from the earth. Strange inscriptions, not fully matching the known Sumerian cuneiform script. In Syria, farmers have reported hearing sounds rising from beneath the ground, deep, groaning echoes of unknown origin. In Iraq, American soldiers were once ordered not to conduct surveys near certain areas of the Euphrates, under the justification of national security. All of it was filed under one label, abnormal but insufficient for investigation. And like every terrifying secret, it was buried again under layers of sediment, waiting for someone brave enough to reach out. In the book of Revelation, it's not just chapter 9 that mentions the Euphrates, chapter 16 does as well. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. A strange detail. Natural disaster is not portrayed as a surprise, but as appointed. The drying of the river is not a consequence, but a precondition for another event to unfold. Could it be that the Euphrates drying up is not an ending, but an invitation to a predetermined event long recorded in ancient apocalyptic texts? The Euphrates is not only drying in physical reality. It is also drying in the realm of the spirit. Today, we live in a world of artificial intelligence, hyperspeed information, and the illusion of control. Yet amid all this progress, humanity seems to be losing its spiritual foundation. Some say, the Euphrates drying is Earth sending a warning. But others say, it's a mirror, reflecting the emptiness within us. The sacred river is being drained. The four bound angels are waiting. And humanity is drawing ever closer to an irreversible moment. If the angels truly are bound beneath the Euphrates, then the river's depletion may be the removal of the final, physical barrier. No one knows what will happen if the seal breaks. Will they return? Will they bring fire and blood, as Revelation once warned? Or worse still, they may not need to return in flesh, because their consciousness has already risen, through the actions of modern humans. Hatred, war, pride, destruction of nature. If these are the new forms of the fallen angels, then the drying of the Euphrates is simply the sign that the final veil has fallen. Part 5, The Invisible Abyss. Where are they when they don't appear? If the four fallen angels are truly bound beneath the Euphrates, if they are formless entities, not bound by material existence, then a haunting question arises, like a whisper within the mind. Where are they, when we do not see them? In ancient theological traditions, angels, both celestial and fallen, are non-physical beings. They are not limited by space, nor can they be restrained by chains in the physical sense. What binds them is will, decree, and the layers of consciousness. So, if they exist outside the physical realm, then the so-called abyss in which they are imprisoned may not lie beneath the earth, but deep within the architecture of human consciousness itself. Have you ever felt there was a part of you that even you couldn't control? Just a small part, but when it rises, it casts a shadow over your entire being. It might be an anger with no clear cause, a sudden surge of desire, an urge to break every moral boundary. And afterward, you look back and ask yourself, why did I do that? Spiritual scholars call this the shadow self. But if we go further, could those moments be echoes from invisible abysses? Places where ancient beings never truly disappeared, but simply hid within the very nature of man. There is a theory in esoteric philosophy known as divided consciousness. It suggests that humans once had direct access to supernatural planes. But after a primordial rupture, higher levels of awareness were locked away, sealed. And now, each person carries a fragment of that original memory. So, if the bound angels symbolize sealed layers of consciousness, then the drying of the Euphrates may not be just a geological phenomenon, but a sign that the locks on our spiritual gates are starting to crack. Stranger dreams, hallucinations during sleepless nights, unexplainable behaviors spreading through society. All might be symptoms indicating the abyss is rising from within us. Another theory, no less chilling, suggests the fallen angels don't need to return, because humanity, through ambition and technology, has taken up their work of unraveling the sacred. Today, humans develop tools to regulate emotions with pharmaceuticals, predict behavior with AI, re-engineer genes to upgrade the species. All of which are acts the Watchers were once punished for revealing. So are we, unconsciously, repeating the same path of the fall. Imagine standing at the banks of the Euphrates. No gunfire. No voices. Only the wind and the cracked riverbed. If you listen long enough, you might hear something that is not a sound, but a sensation. A call from somewhere without a name. Not of this world, but not so distant as to be unreachable. It whispers, "Remember, we were once one." And it's there, in your own eyes, when you look into the mirror. Part 6, Knowledge, Wisdom and Responsibility. When the fallen angels were chained, people often assumed it was a punishment for betrayal. But if you look deeper, you'll notice a recurring pattern. They were punished not only for what they did, but for what they revealed. What did they reveal? Knowledge. In the Book of Enoch, Azazel was cursed for teaching humans how to forge weapons and women how to beautify themselves. Samayaza was sealed away for passing down the secrets of heaven to the offspring of men. Lucifer, according to many non-canonical texts, was cast down not for a violent act, but for aspiring to rise above God, desiring to know as he does. Since the beginning of time, knowledge has been humanity's greatest desire. And it is also what cast them out of Eden. On the day you eat of that tree, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Genesis. The greater question here is no longer, who was right, who was wrong. It is, why is knowing considered a sin? We can imagine knowledge as a flame. It can illuminate, but it can also burn. The danger is not the fire itself, but whose hands are holding it. Perhaps the real reason the fallen angels were bound is this. They handed the flame to creatures who were not ready. The Nephilim, the children of the Watchers, didn't learn how to live kindly. They became brutal giants, carriers of wrath fueled by uncontrolled knowledge. And so the world of that time was drowned in the great flood, not as punishment, but as a reset of divine order. We, the modern humans, are now entering an unprecedented era. Artificial intelligence can now write, draw, and make decisions. Humans edit DNA, implant memories. Superpowers weaponize the climate, ecosystems, even belief systems. Could it be that we are now playing the role of the watchers? Once again, knowledge is outpacing ethical boundaries. Once again, the world grows unstable, chaotic. And once again, the ancient question echoes back. Are we touching something we were never meant to know? What the fallen angels lacked may not have been goodness, but responsibility for what they passed down. Today, humanity does not lack knowledge. What we lack is a spiritual framework to use that knowledge wisely. Without the companionship of wisdom, the ability to see clearly, compassion, the intent to benefit the collective, and self-discipline, the ability to stop at the right moment, any civilization, no matter how brilliant, will eventually collapse from within. They were punished for placing power in the hands of the unready. And the most terrifying thought is, we may now be repeating the very same mistake. No angels required. No Euphrates needed. Just one scream. One line of code. One misguided decision, in a single second. Part 7, The Final Battle, Fire or Light. Every myth has a conclusion. And for the 4 fallen angels, that conclusion is not redemption, but the final battle. Yet is that battle one of destruction, or liberation? A day of judgment, or a moment of awakening? In Revelation 9-15, a chilling detail emerges. And the 4 angels, who had been kept ready for this very hour and day and month and year, were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. Not vague. Not when the time comes. But the hour, the day, the month, and the year, a precise moment marked long before we were born. Could it be that, as the Euphrates dries up, that moment is drawing near? And if so, what exactly is destined to unfold? Unlike the usual mythological wars between gods and demons, Revelation describes the final battle with no clear sides, no named identities. There is no passage stating that these chained angels will fight against God, nor any that says they will aid humanity. Only this is known. When they are released, death will spread, and truth will be revealed. One theory suggests this battle does not occur in the outer world, but is a great purification within humanity itself. The fire of revelation may not be physical flames, but the fire of truth, the fire of awakening, the fire of self-destruction for the sake of rebirth. 1/3 of mankind perishing may be symbolic of the disintegration of old layers of consciousness. Blind belief, self-centered ego, habits of living without a soul. Those who remain, the survivors, may not be the physically strongest, but those bright enough to endure the burning of their own ego. In all ancient cultures, light never arrives on its own. It only appears once the darkness has reached its extreme. Perhaps, the return of the fallen angels is to perform a role that humankind dares not face. To bring back the light by igniting the final darkness. The most terrifying thing is not the arrival of evil, but the naked truth being unveiled. No more hiding. No more excuses. No more justifications. But those who pass through the fire will shine. It's not about sides or celestial beings. It's about each of us. When all masks fall. When the darkness howls one last time. When the light comes not from heaven but from the human heart. Will you be the one who runs? Or the one who stands, and burns like a torch of awakening? We have journeyed together across thousands of years of memory. From scriptures cast out of orthodoxy, to the final verses in the book of Revelation. From a river drying slowly in the desert, to the nameless shadows within the human mind. We have sought the 4 angels bound beneath the Euphrates. But in the end, what was found was not flesh, nor broken wings. It was a mirror. A great mirror, reflecting our own image. Perhaps they were never truly bound. Only forgotten. Forgotten in scriptures that were edited. In histories that were rewritten. In doctrines that preserved only what was easy to hear, easy to control. And above all, forgotten within our very souls. We once carried the light, like the angels. But through pride, ambition, and fear, we let it fall. And instead of reclaiming it, we blamed the darkness. We gave it names, Lucifer, Azazel, Samayaza, Beelzebub. As if naming it would make it disappear. But the true darkness is still here. Not out there, not beneath the river. But within. Buried inside forgotten consciousness. And true liberation doesn't come with thunder from the sky. It doesn't arrive with a trumpet of judgment echoing through the heavens. It comes in a moment of stillness. When one person, even just one, dares to look deep within. And whispers, I once knew. And now, I remember. The question is no longer, where are the angels imprisoned? But, what are you imprisoning within yourself? And when will you finally set it free? You have listened to the very end. You may not have the answer. But as with all true journeys, it is not the destination. But who you become as you walk the path that truly matters. The world is changing. The seals are breaking. Ancient forces are stirring. And in this moment, in the breath between these silent screams, a choice is forming. Will you choose the light? Or turn away? The 4 angels were bound at the river Euphrates. The story does not close. It only begins.